Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Tonight is a free-for-all. We're just talking about the latest in news, politics, pop culture, and doing our country feature on the nation of Kazakhstan. So excited to talk about that country, dispel some of the myths you may know from the movie Borat, and talk about what's going on there. It's not all, honey and roses, but it's not what you saw in the movie. So we'll get to talking about that. There are plenty of other stories that we'll be talking about. Of course, we'll be doing a CNN News quiz later. So let's bring on the co-host, Dan, the Van Fishman.
Mia Dan.
Out
of respect that I am Dan, but also out of respect to the second leading scorer all time in soccer, both men and women, Mia Hamm.
Yep. Legend word.
Yep.
And the non-sports loving person on this panel, AJ, surviving in a small town. How you doing?
I am surviving in a small town. I really, really am, y'all.
You will survive. Hey.
Oh, fuck yeah, I guess.
At first I was afraid. I was petrified.
Oh.
Yeah, so Dan and I got up early this morning to watch the Women's World Cup. If you'd watched any of the Women's World Cup this year, it not a surprise result in the fact that the United States lost, but I think of the games that they played this tournament, this was their most complete effort. They just failed in the final third of the field.
Yeah, I mean, the Swedish goalie had a remarkable game. No question about it. 11 saves, which not counting the shootout. And the U.S. did what they had to do to win, except putting the ball in the goal. Now, there's been a lot of criticism about the team along the way. And one of the things that you can argue about is that this is a team that, in spite of not playing well, only gave up one shot on goal the entire tournament. Not just a goal. They only gave up one goal. They only gave up one shot on goal. And that was Netherlands' goal during group play. There were no other shots on goal. Defense played phenomenally. So there was an argument that maybe they could have pushed another player forward or been more aggressive. But whatever.
I thought their defense was very aggressive today. I mean, you saw
they played great.
Germa and both Germa and Ertz moving up the field and contributing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lack of finishing for this team, it was with all the star players that they had that could finish.
Yeah. But I think it's important to talk about the Women's World Cup too, in terms of the geopolitical consequences of it, because in the beginning, it was the countries where women had the most equality that did the best. So in the beginning, there was just the United States. And then Japan came on pretty well.
A few European squads, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. The Scandinavian countries, and Sweden is one of them. Sweden's definitely a top world power.
Third ranked. Yeah, third ranked in the nation.
And they're exactly what you would expect the Sweden team to be, right? 6'2", blonde, and just phenomenal at heading the ball into the goal. So for the U.S. to hold them out is definitely an accomplishment. It's great that Sweden is going on because they're certainly a worthy side. It's not like we lost to, a terrible team. And let's be fair, in the group stage, there were some terrible teams. We are still not in the stage where there are 32 countries in the world that can field competitive women's teams.
I mean, yeah, you're still seeing some blowouts.
7-0.
The lesser federation, teams. But
right,
you're still seeing teams get roped in the Men's World Cup as well, because you'll probably see it even worse coming into 2026 because you're seeing the expansion of the field. So you're going to get guaranteed teams from like Oceania. And more Asian teams, more African teams, more South American teams, more North American teams, and there's the opportunity for a team to get into the World Cup that may not be the most World Cup ready.
Right. Now, I mean, I will say, right. And the interesting thing about it, too, is that it is clear that it's more about culture than anything else. And, I think Croatia proved that astonishingly well, making it to the semifinals and the finals,
Yeah.
and being, a country that's smaller than all of the top 10 American cities, 3.8 million people in Croatia. Not the smallest not smallest nation to win the World Cup, though, because that is
Uruguay?
Uruguay. Yeah,
Yeah.
who granted won the first World Cup, but they're still very competitive. So there's a
Yes.
lot to do with soccer culture. Uh, but for the Women's World Cup, you're talking about the fact that, right, there were no professional women's sports at all 40 years ago. And now, there are a lot of women who make a good living playing around the world. I mean, Brittany Griner was, most recently in the news, but she was playing in Russia because there was a work there to be paid for it.
Yeah.
There are women's professional basketball leagues in a lot of countries, women's professional soccer leagues. In fact, most of the Premier League teams now have associated women's teams with them. And that part of it, and it wasn't meant to be a social experiment. It was meant to be the idea that sport is for everybody. But that part has been a phenomenal success. And although I'm sad to see the American women out, I am thrilled at what is clearly the most successful Women's World Cup so far.
It's almost, you said it's a kind of a social commentary, geopolitical commentary that, the freest countries did the best. And the
Yep.
United States kind of backsliding in both equality when it comes to women.
Oh my God.
Know?
Dude, that is a fucking article that needs to be written. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could write that tongue in cheek and the New York Times would run it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, you want to know whose fault it really is? It's Donald Trump's fault. It's conservative
Absolutely.
Tennessee's fault.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
there is something to that. I am, it's just, I mean, it is a damn shame, but I'm excited I think England is the smart bet now.
Of course,
They're
yeah.
playing really, really well. They've got a great team. Obviously, it's a, you know, complete suffrage, women's rights, all that stuff. In fact, women got the right to vote in England before they did in the United States. Um, so, but there's nobody that I'm really rooting against. There aren't any teams that I hate. They were all eliminated. So, I think people should tune in if you and the games are on at a weird hour. This is the problem with having in Australia and New Zealand, but all the highlights are on YouTube. So just search for Women's World Cup on YouTube, and you can see all the results. And the American Sweden game, even though America lost, the very exciting match.
Yeah. It's right now. It's like 10 a.m. in Melbourne. At 10 a.m. like next week, I think. As far
Yeah,
as
it's on the
time
other side of the
goes.
day
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
Other side of the universe from us.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's it's hard to watch sports when they're in Australia. And I know this because I'm a really big fan of Australian rules football, so I'll stay up and watch games. Although my team is abysmal, um, just to because it's an interesting sport. I really enjoy watching Aussie rules football. But yeah, the hours for those games, it's weird watching daylight action when it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. So, but yeah, it is hard watching sports on the other side of the planet from us. So, anyway, let's talk the news. So this week in Tennessee, we had a wasted time.
And
AJ,
a waste of time in Tennessee? No fucking way.
a waste of time and money. How
A
about
waste of
that?
time and money. It sounds like the Republicans did something, didn't they?
They
Mine
did
is
do
money.
Yes.
something. Yeah. So
Yes.
if you missed the story where we talked about the Tennessee Three a while back, the three legislators who were put up on expulsion charges in the legislature for the temerity of using a bullhorn on the floor of the Capitol of the House of Representatives. Two of them were expelled formally. They were returned by their respective city councils,
Yes.
and then
And then reelected.
yep,
by a landslide, both of them in their districts.
which was stupid because they were elected by landslide.
They were
It
elected by a
didn't.
landslide. They were reappointed without any issues at all. They both won their elections in a landslide. And actually, Gloria Johnson is going to be running against Marsha Blackburn.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes, it's kind of exciting. I'm like, oh,
Senate
are we
race,
gonna
huh?
have something neat? Maybe we will see. Enough of the country have been like, Tennessee, you need to get your shit together. You're always voting these people in. And it's like, we don't really have a lot of options on our ballot. If you vote in the Republican primary, you will have multiple options. If you vote in the Democratic primary, you're going to have like one dude. Like that's all that's going to be on your ballot. Um, and then when you actually go to vote on the main day, the majority of these offices are run without a competitor. It's just the Republicans like renewing their lease on the office is essentially what's going on.
Yeah, the
Um,
primary ends up being the general election.
yes, it's ridiculous between the gerrymandering and the strict ballot access laws and the very small democratic process. Now, I have preached this since February because I see people, oh, me, Tennessee, y'all are stupid. You're not voting for the right people. And it's like, we don't have anyone else to vote for, sweet pea. The
Yeah.
Republican Party has all the money, and there's not enough Democrats spread out. Now, in the bigger cities, yes, there's a great Democratic presence in Memphis and in Nashville. We can see that. Knoxville, it's real iffy, which is strange, but it is.
College town, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just real weird. But it's also got like mountain folk, and Tennessee's really strange. And I'm tickled. I'm tickled that they both won back their seats. And let's see, Justin Jones is going around. He won't say fuck around and find out. He goes, they messed around. He goes, this is the finding out part. And they're both so eloquent when they speak. Justin Pearson, I could listen. I would listen to him say anything he wanted to. Just talk, buddy. Whatever you
Both of
want
them
to talk
definitely
about.
have some
Mhm.
preacher, southern preacher vibes going.
Well, Justin Jones is actually from California.
Wow.
Yes, which means Republicans extra hate him because he's one of those fucking Californians that came to Tennessee.
Liberals.
Yes,
Liberals.
drinking that Kool-Aid. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's tasty. The whole thought of human rights, it's kind of tasty.
So, I mean, what do you think is going to happen in Tennessee? Do you think this is the start of a movement that kind of brings balance? And, again, I don't trust the Democrats at all either. This is the problem I have with our duopoly is that I don't trust the Democrats to do anything that they say that they're going to do, especially in the realm of fixing some of the civil liberties issues.
Mm.
But is there going to be I don't expect the next election to turn around and the Democrats win a majority in Tennessee. But is there this kind of bringing back kind of a rejuvenation of the party that the Democrats can build on?
I what I'm hoping is that Gen Z, because they're old enough to vote, a lot of them are old enough to
Yeah.
vote, and there's enough of them that have grown up with active shooter drills that they packed the Capitol. They can do that again. And I mean, there are teachers that are already suing Tennessee. Everybody's unhappy. The representatives are not doing anything that anyone's asking for, but they have a whole lot of people saying, don't do this and don't do that. And they're going ahead with it. And like it's been said so many times, Tennessee doesn't pass bills, they pass lawsuits because that's all that the Republican Party has accomplished. They haven't actually done anything. Um, as far as I don't know if we're going to be able. I don't know if Tennessee's going to be able to turn it around in 24
Yeah, I don't.
because
It's too.
Trump.
It's too swing. It's too soon. Yeah, it's a presidential
It's
year. There's a lot
it's
of investment
too
in that.
too much Trump because okay, I posted on my Instagram earlier today. I was in town and there is no shit the digital billboard. Now I pay attention to this billboard because it's a small town and sometimes there's tea on the billboard because it's a small town and we trash you like that. If you look up Warren County, specifically McMinnville, Tennessee, it's kind of the asshole of Tennessee. I did not realize how ghetto we were growing up. I have learned. So this digital billboard, it says, "Pray for President Trump and our nation." Now,
You think they
interesting
got
enough,
the
I've
memo that he
never, ever,
lost?
ever seen that say, "Pray for President Biden."
Oh
So
no.
we don't give a shit what happens the 4 years that he's in office. We've got to continue to pray for Trump. So my question is, what are we praying for? Are we praying that his commissary has his self-tanning lotion? Are we praying that I don't know, he's allowed to have his iPad so he can continue on Truth Social because he's putting out some gems
I agree.
like
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what are we praying for? That's my town. That's why I say I'm surviving in a small town because
Well,
oh my gosh, y'all, I can't have a yard sale without some Trumper coming up here preaching at me, and it's like I'm here to sell like dollar items, sir. Like what are we doing? Why are you
no.
talking about the Republicans with me? I just Tennessee is going to have to get it together in such a way. The Democratic Party is going to have to fundraise in such a way. And if they do it right, because the Justins fucking proved this, they raised like $2 million. And it was like that.
It's easy though
If
because
we
it's a
could do
national.
that, yeah.
Well, it was a national issue, so you're raising money
Mhm,
from outside of Tennessee. When it becomes a competitive election throughout, all 50 states are having elections at the same time, and money does
mhm.
tend to dry up. Now, they're not going to face any problems in their own districts because they are heavily Democratic. Um, it's just how do you? I think the thing is, what's going on in Tennessee. You know the things that are broken in Tennessee. What the Democrats or any other party has to do is explain to the voters, yes, we know it's screwed up. Here's where it's screwed up, but here's our plan to fix it. I don't
Mhm.
think that parties are doing. They're just there to look at how bad they screwed this up. Now, if you turn to us, and but they're not getting that second part of the message. They're saying, look how bad they screwed up, and you're not giving anybody a reason to vote for you. You're not breaking that psychological bond to the Republican Party that there are people you're not going to reach in the Republican Party. That's fine, but there's
Yeah.
that middle way in the between the parties, the independents, all that, where you've got to be able to say, here's how we fix it, and if you put your trust in me. This is the stuff I'll bring to the floor, the House, Senate, wherever you're electing me for, and this is the program that I'd like to see to help fix it. Like the whole thing with the third graders failing. The state test should not be a pass fail on
No.
students. It should be a measure to the extent that you do statewide tests. I kind of abhor statewide tests. I'd cancel those as well. But that would be a measurement rather than a pass fail punishment test. Um,
Oh, funny enough, the people that are on that they're in the House of Representatives at least spoke out against these tests. The ones that actually have educational experience. They had all the
mhm.
experts that come out. This is the problem with Tennessee is not just convincing people something. Democrat in Tennessee is like a curse. Like you are one of those fucking liberals drinking that Kool-Aid. And I mean, they are serious. Like I ended up in a nest of crazy queues during an election. I was just checking out the local candidates and I ended up in an area where I had my kid call me. So I had an excuse to get out of the room because I realized where I was. I was in a group of these people that actually believe that COVID is a conspiracy and there's Latin and math involved and like
Yeah. So those people
JFK
you.
Jr. They talked about JFK Jr.
Uh,
in my hometown. Like that's where we're at. It's not just bringing in the experts because they brought in experts for gender
no,
affirming care. They brought in experts for drag. They brought in entertainment experts. They brought in all of these different people. It didn't matter. The evidence shoved right in their face didn't matter.
you're
Tennessee
you're
has
talking
gotten
about
so ignorant and backwards
But you're talking
that
about representatives that and they're doing stuff to placate this extreme fringe of their party because they're the ones that are the loudest at the meetings. They're the ones that, to an extent, donate money.
Mhm.
And again, it's about how do you get the majority of the people to vote for you? And maybe it's not the Democratic Party, or maybe it's somebody that's going to have to rebrand the Democratic Party within the state of Tennessee to something that isn't liberal, that isn't talking about democratic socialism, but talking about kitchen table issues and how to solve the problems of the day without, sinking Tennessee into lawsuit after lawsuit. Telling people, hey, we should all mind our own business when it comes to things in life. You
Oh,
don't.
but Jesus.
They should read their Bible.
Oh
Honestly,
no.
read your goddamn
Oh
Bible.
no. I'm sure. Um, I I think the problem is, and okay, when I was with the Libertarian Party, this is the same problem that I had, is people would rather run independent because you can do that in Tennessee,
That's easier. Yeah.
Republican, Democrat, or independent, 25 signatures. You are more likely to get people to listen to you if you are an independent candidate rather than a Democratic candidate, because Democrat in Tennessee, that is no.
And maybe that's the
Um,
lane you need to go
y-
down. Yeah, maybe that's the lane that the state needs to go down, is that you get a group of people who want to run as an independent rather than a Democrat or Republican, and offer that kind of program of solutions rather than just complaining about how fucked up everything is. Because that things are going to change. You're not going to wedge that independent voter away from the majority because they think they get something out of these Republicans getting into office. Like, they win, I pick the winning candidate, I win something. No, you don't win anything.
Right.
I would love to think that Tennessee, that the people that I know, like friends, family, all that, that they would eventually listen. But it doesn't matter how many facts that we show them.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason that our circle in Tennessee has gotten very, very small. The Campbell clan does not go out as often as we used to, because we have found out that, oh no, these people have no idea. And they are perfectly willing to deny and deny and deny and talk about that damn Barbie movie and whatever the fuck, right? Because that's what matters is
It's the
whatever
outrage.
made up bullshit that
Yeah, it's
conservatives has brought up on Fox News.
the
Because the
outrage
majority
loop.
of they yeah, and there's no point.
Yeah,
And it's so difficult to get through to them, because even with the Libertarian Party, it was like, yes, we want the government out of your business. We don't believe that, vaccines, that was the big thing, because of course it's 2020. What else can we talk about, right? Everybody's got to talk about the fucking pandemic. No other rights matter. we
yeah,
can't make nobody has to wear a mask. And we actually had a county executive. He lost the election because he did a mask mandate in the government buildings downtown. Just the government buildings. That was it.
yeah,
And they called him Commissar Haley. And it was like, that's ridiculous. Um,
yeah. Oh,
I don't
you know that 200 years from now, to the extent that humanity still exists, that this time will be looked on as kind of just almost a comical time in American history. If American
oh,
history, maybe as the historical scholars, if America still exists, they can, the Empire scholars can say, yeah, this was the silly season for America before its collapse. Um, but yeah,
okay. Well, people of the future, I really hope you're
I
entertained. Like
apologize.
we did our best. I don't we didn't
We worked
start the
hard.
fire. This shit just was here. It was here.
It feels
Um,
like you're quoting that song. What is it? In the year 2525,
25.
if man is still alive.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
well,
exactly.
I guess we won't see actually.
Well,
So cheers to that.
yeah. So AJ mentioned the Trump master. So he was indicted for the third time this week. Um, this time on, I can't even remember which charges he was indicted on. Was this January 6th?
He's referring to this as his Melania indictment because
The
it's the third
Melania.
one.
Oh my God. Wow. But yeah, he's third indictment, now up to 78 felony charges in these three indictments. He actually had to plead guilty twice this week, or not guilty. I'm sorry. in the January 6th case, and then some additional charges are brought in the documents case. So Wednesday and Thursday, he was in D.C. pleading not guilty to charges related to those two indictments. But he's been busy this weekend. He's had a couple rallies, a couple dinners. He sent out I don't even know what they call it on Truth Social, tweet, a post, a Nazi
A
salute.
truth,
I have no idea.
a
They
truth.
call it a dump.
A dump, a Trump dump.
Yeah.
Um, he, he said that if you're coming after me, I'm coming after you in response to the indictments. The special prosecutor or special counsel, whatever they're calling him, Jack Smith, is using that to try and kind of muzzle Trump, not revealing any of the discovery in the media or anything. I wonder how long he'll be able to do that, because Trump can't keep himself quiet.
But also, it's I mean, it's unclear whether or not they're going to get that order.
No, it's not. Yeah, we don't know. But threatening people will kind of grease the tracks a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
it was vague enough. Yeah, I mean, I think
they're
wiggle room.
They're dancing a fine line here, and so I want to circle around two things. First of all, this is the most serious of everything, and it's the one that's the most trouble because Mike Pence was on Face the Nation this morning and said, "Look, the president asked me to break the law, and I wouldn't." And so that is, that's what he's being charged with, is obstruction of justice, trying to get somebody to break the law, etc. And Mike Pence. Look, I disagree with Mike Pence on probably 105% of his politics, but there are two stories that are always going to be told about Mike Pence.
Sorry, I haven't been sharing chat.
And this is one of them. And then the other one is, right after they won, right after Trump and Pence won, Mike Pence took his daughters to go see Hamilton in New York City on Broadway.
Yeah.
And they went there, and at the end of the show, there's frequently, I don't know if it's true for the touring cast, but certainly in Broadway, the audience, the cast will come out and talk about a cause that they're interested in. And so, they said, Mr. Vice President or Mr. Vice President elect, divisive campaign. And, we hope that you'll take this opportunity to understand that, many of us here were opposed to your campaign, but, we are hoping that you'll find a way to see humanity, et cetera, et cetera. It was a tough message for him to hear. It was especially tough to be there with his younger daughters and to hear somebody talk about that. But afterwards, his comment about it was, he said, I told my daughters, this is what democracy looks like. And he made another comment to that extent where he said, the president can't complain about being charged for having a failed coup, that is somehow a subversion of democracy, because in fact, that is the triumph of democracy. In other countries where you're accused of having a failing coup, they execute you immediately. So in this case, Donald Trump, the stuff that he's complaining about actually is the strength of our democracy that's happening. So I'll bitch a lot about Mike Pence, but he's got that one small element of what it means to have a constitution right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's wrong on everything else. He believes in conversion therapy. Yeah. He's against a woman's right to choose. He is against. He was against women playing full court basketball when he was in the State House. He said that their uteruses will drop out if they ran up and down the whole court.
I'm so sorry. I paid for that surgery for nothing. All I had to do was play some fucking basketball.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so all that stuff being said, it's going to be interesting This is the one that I think has the most legs. Some of the other stuff, I think that they were a little petty to chase some of that stuff down. But this one, this is it. This is the big deal. He really did try to incite a riot. He tried to defeat
So
democratic process.
Justin Amash posted today saying that he disagreed with the indictment, saying that it's more on Trump has a right to, it's a free speech argument against the indictment. And I have a problem with that. Generally I don't have too many problems with Justin Amash. There are some areas I do disagree with him on. But to me, that's like arguing that a robber has the right to free speech to say, give me all your money. And
I mean, I don't know. Did Amash say all this stuff after Mike Pence's testimony? Because that's the thing that makes
I think.
Okay. That's the thing that makes the most difference to me. In
Yeah.
the face of what Mike Pence said. Other than that, I mean, for me, right, the tape of his conversation with is it Wallenberg, the Secretary of State in Georgia?
Oh, Raffensperger, yeah.
Roethlisberger.
Raffensperger.
That guy, the Georgia Secretary of State. He essentially is saying, look, you need to find 12,000 votes for us.
Yeah.
He says that.
And then the schemes to put in electors, and where they even call it fake they call them fake electors. Like,
right.
This is kind of like 101 on how to not commit crime. And, people who commit crime are not always the smartest people in the world. And they certainly showed it in this instance. So, it was interesting to see all of this. I do think that this is the most egregious charges. The stuff related to January 6th, I think, is going to be interesting. I saw a story today on CNN where a legal guy, one of their legal people, was talking about if he's convicted, with his Secret Service protection, that going to jail would be almost impossible. And I made that question at right after January 6th. Like, if Trump does go to jail, is he still afforded Secret Service protection? And
in jail,
will the Secret Service person have to serve time with him in jail?
It's a fascinating question. There's a friend of mine. I'm going to call her out on the show, Carol Manuel, who rose to the rank of Chief Petty Officer in the Navy before retiring recently. She pointed out on one of her threads that if she were convicted of a felony, she would lose her pension.
Yeah.
That is not true for congressmen and presidents.
No.
Which is pretty strange, if you ask me.
That's a pretty full commissary bank account, man. I'm telling you.
Exactly. What about you, Dave? If you were convicted of a felony, would you lose your federal pension?
I don't know, but I do know that for veterans, if you're receiving compensation for your service-connected injuries, if you go to jail, you lose. They
shut up. That's some bullshit.
You forfeit all but 10% of your benefits, so you're paid at the 10% rate, which is like $150 a month. So
that is ridiculous.
Now, if you have a family on the outside, you can apportion those benefits to that family.
Right.
So if we were like 100% service connected, which is like $3,400, $3,500 a month, you could apportion the balance of those benefits to the family while you're in jail. But if you're like a single dude, swinging single, no kids, anything like that, you forfeit that. But they've gotten really liberal on veteran benefits as far as the other thing is, if you're a fugitive felon, if you're a fugitive from justice, they'll cut you off completely until you're returned on a warrant. But which makes sense. We shouldn't be paying for a guy to run from justice. I get that. But I will say that they've gotten a lot more forgiving, especially when it comes to things like stuff that they've done during their service. That gave them bad conduct discharges. So they've gotten a lot more forgiving on that stuff, especially in the areas of, LGBTQ, the don't ask, don't tell, people who are
Right.
forced out for homosexuality, people who were who were discharged for desertion, things like that. They've gotten really liberal on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, good. I'm glad, but it is worrisome that there are, so many veterans who are potentially seeking medical treatments that are deemed illegal by the government and can be arrested for possession, and then they lose their benefits because they're trying to address their own medical issues.
Yep.
It's such a fucked up system.
It is a very messed up system. I'd like to see the system where veterans can choose their own health care, they choose their own medication that works for them, whether it is the pills that the VA prescribe or whether it's natural treatments such as cannabis and psilocybin and psilocybin or even microdosing LSD, that type of stuff. So
Molly as well, ecstasy,
yeah,
all that stuff. Let me ask you a question, Dave. What do you know about ID.me?
ID.me, that sounds familiar.
So I just started, and actually, who else should know about this is AJ. So first of all, it's a little bit of an invasion of your privacy, but ID.me started off as a way to make an electronic version of your identity card if you were a veteran, so that you could get discounts all over the place. They have since extended that to people working in healthcare, specifically nurses, because doctors don't need any of that shit. But I noticed it today because I was getting ready to buy a new set of tires, and if I were a nurse, I could have saved $120, which would have been a good savings for me.
I know nothing
So
about this.
well, so let me just recommend to people who are, first of all, if you're a veteran, you're probably doing it already. Although, my dad, and this is kind of crazy, my dad has never claimed a veteran's benefit. He was honorably discharged in 1960. Well, that's not true. He finished his active duty in 1960 and then did 8 more years in the reserve. So I don't know what that means, but whatever it was. But he never claimed any veteran benefit. And then the other day, he was telling me that, he started going to Dunkin' Donuts. My dad is 85 years old, but very active, in really good shape. And he talked about the fact that he now likes to get an iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm like, that's great. He's like, yeah, it's great. It's really convenient. It kills me that it's $3. I'm like, well, are you using your senior citizen discount? He's like, they also have a veterans discount. He's like, really? And then I'm like, Dad, have you never used your veterans discount? He's like, no. And I'm like, dude, you're an Apple fanboy. He only buys Macs and stuff like that.
Wow.
I'm like, they have a huge veterans discount.
Yeah.
And, now that it's with ID.me, same discounts for nurses and teachers. The teacher thing is a little bit bullshit because it's only if you're a licensed teacher, licensed by the state. But, it is what it is.
I'll have to tell my wife about that then.
You should tell your wife.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about the Sahel region of Africa. Emphasis on hell. It is basically this Sahara region of Africa. Some mostly landlocked countries in the middle of the Sahara Desert. There are 3 countries in the last 3 years that have seen coups affected and overthrowing, marginally democratic government. The last one is more democratic than the previous 2.
Right.
Mali was 3 years ago. Last year was 2 years ago. Burkina Faso was last year, and then this year was Niger.
Yeah.
Be careful how you pronounce that. You can get in trouble. Soft G. Okay. Just a warning.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so there's this region has been a hotbed for Islamist activity. There's a mix in the region between, you know, colonial, you know, related folks who, you know, are more in the Christian denominations, and then the Islamists that are out in the hinterlands that have been trying to agitate for regime change. This is above and beyond what has happened with the coups. The Islamists have been fighting in this region for years, you know, related to some of the global jihadist movements like Al Qaeda and some other movements, particularly up in Libya and things like that. So
It's interesting too because there's certainly hints that the Wagner group is involved in this,
yes,
and there's some Russian interference. And what's interesting about it is that for a long time, the Russians were incredibly afraid of militant Islam. People who don't remember, the Russians were in Afghanistan specifically because they wanted to stop the spread of militant Islam
yep,
into the southern republics. Now,
they just kicked that hornet's nest.
exactly right. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But so now here they are. The Russians are realizing that you know, my enemy is my friend. Anybody
Well,
who's
no,
out there,
it's not even. They're not. I think the battle is still there with the Islamists. I think it's that they don't. One, they're trying to drive a wedge between the existing kind of political power structure that's still very much rooted in colonial ties with France. The United States has been involved because of the terror stuff going on in the deserts. Um, that the Wagner Group is there, the Russians are there to drive that wedge and uh, drive the United States, drive France, drive any British troops that may be there out of the Sahel, especially Niger, because Niger has a massive uranium deposits.
right.
So, you know, there's also geopolitical considerations there to capture these things, and they're also driving a wedge into the regional group called ECOWAS, the Economic Community of the West African States, that have responded to these coups. This last coup, especially, they suspended the two other members that have had coups recently.
The cuckoo.
The other cuckoos in Mali and Burkina Faso, and I love saying Burkina Faso, and I love saying their capital, Ouagadougou. But great names. The Burkina Faso and their citizens are called Burkinabe, which I think is awesome too. But yeah, Russia wants that control of that area to drive a very westward oriented ECOWAS apart, and then to establish a foothold there in the Sahel region of Africa. And it's a play toy of the Wagner Group, and I don't know. So ECOWAS, in response this week to the coup in Niger, have announced that they give until today to restore the president, the duly democratically elected president of Niger. That has not happened, and they've threatened everything up and including the use of force to restore power there in Niger. In response, the Burkinabes and Malians have announced that any attack on Niger will be seen as an attack on their countries, and they'll respond in kind to defend Niger. So we may be on the precipice of a regional conflict there.
What's interesting about it is, too, this is history repeating itself, because Central Africa has always been the plaything of cold warriors. In fact, there's a point in time at which Cuba sent troops into
Angola.
Angola, exactly.
Yeah, for years.
And I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Cold War's imprint on Africa is still there. I mean, you look at the disaster that is Somalia. Um, that was Cold War. That was if you look at the what's going on in Ethiopia, what's going on in Eritrea. That's all Cold War. The divisions and the separations. Um, that the Cold War's footprint is all over Africa.
Yeah.
And again, it's also stems from colonialism, where you had a bunch of disparate peoples slammed into these countries. The British ruled by divide and conquer. French, very much the same. The Belgians by just absolute brutal oppression. Um, the and then when they left the
The
continent,
Congo. Yeah.
yeah, Congo. When they left the continent, they were just like, all right, y'all have fun, play with your borders, and and these people who had been played off of each other for decades, almost centuries, under colonial rule, were then now there's a power vacuum. Now we got to fill the power vacuum, and Africa was never given that chance at stability. There are a few islands of stability within the continent, but it's um,
I mean,
we're
sadly, the
seeing,
islands of stability are former colonial powers.
yeah,
Kenya, which even Kenya hasn't been that stable recently, but South Africa.
yeah. Namibia's done well since their independence. Botswana has probably been the most, I would say, stable.
Yeah.
Nigeria is a regional power. In fact, they're probably going to, if there is an invasion of Niger, it'll probably come from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Most of the troops will come from Nigeria. Um, but yeah, it's amazing to see that we're seeing this again. It's a Cold War is happening between the United States and France and Russia, and it's all this power politics. And I've said before, this feels like the interwar period between World War One and World War Two. We're just waiting for the shoe to drop before we have a global war. I don't know that we trigger a global war in Africa, but I mean we triggered a global war in Serbia. So I mean
Well,
there's
I
many
mean,
flashpoints that could happen.
what's interesting about it is, right? I mean, the Cold War, obviously, it's sort of a proxy war for the great powers. And the difference here is that, Russia really isn't a great power anymore.
No,
By nobody's estimation, is Russia more of an influence than China on the world stage? But China really only has, I mean, China certainly does have some global ambitions,
oh yeah,
but
Belt and Road Initiative, yeah,
yeah, but they are not, they're still not experienced at the game.
no,
And so, the Russians are much better. And I mean, the only thing, it's a good thing that the Russians and the Chinese actually still hate each other too, because they certainly could cause us problems, more problems, if they were to find a way to work together.
yeah. I mean, there's been grumblings about the changing global order. The
Well,
UAE recently did oil. Uh, converted oil into Chinese yuan rather than through the dollar, which was kind of a first time for them doing that. Um, and the Middle East is kind of moving away from the United States and taking a more independent stance, closer to China, closer to India. Maybe not completely embracing either one, but keeping their options open.
yeah, there is I mean, it's interesting though, because the thing with yuan becoming a global currency, it's just never going to happen because
It's
the
still fixed,
Chinese,
isn't it?
well, the Chinese government has within the last 10 years, 4 times just changed the price of it. Whoop,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, we're changing the value of all your stuff.
yeah.
So,
It's hard.
right, exactly. And, even though the Federal Reserve can change the interest rates, which is the de facto price of money, it's not really setting the value to It's not. It hasn't changed it like the way the Chinese have changed the value of the yuan. But I, back to your area of Central Africa, that area is rich in some rare metals.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see the Western powers doing the right thing and saying, the way that we get the most out of this is for you to become capitalists getting rewarded for the value of your goods and your labor, instead of how the hell do we exploit you guys, which then makes them think, well, maybe if we had a stronger system where the government owned the means of production, we would be getting more out of this.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
should be able to.
it's the long, so much of what is going on in Africa has been baked in from its colonial experience. Again, the being thrown together disparate groups into this these large countries, and then not having the it's far easier to take the shortcuts to power than it is to do a democracy right. And I think people will get to the point where they're frustrated with democracy not working, and
Right.
they're really much, I'd rather just be a strong man and what I say goes.
Right. And
they get to the point where they're getting some democracy in Africa, and then something like an Islamic insurgency kind of upsets the apple cart there, and people want that security. And a strongman military junta promises they'll first they overthrow the government. They're not going to announce it ahead of time, but they go in and they do the coup, and then they promise them security and we'll take care of you, and we'll take care of the insurgents and wipe them out. And really, I mean, there's really no need for them to go after the insurgents. Now they're all in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Right. Yeah. The right way out. I mean, it was the right way out is just to find a way to make those guys super rich, because like we might not like what the Middle East has done, but those guys are hardcore capitalists now. I mean, they're cronies, but
yeah, it's cronies. I mean,
yeah.
And we made several people on the African continent rich. I mean, if you open up your email, you get invitations to give your bank account for untold
Nigerian prince.
$billions.
Exactly. That's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that.
We had made people really rich. It's just that we actually have also fostered that idea that it's easier to deal with one tin pot dictator than to deal with a democratic government where you have power sharing between parties, or a prime minister and a head of state. And democracies are messy. They're necessarily messy because it's a check on power, balances of power within a country, and it's easier for governments and corporations alike to just deal with the one tin pot dictator that what he says goes. So there are too many perverse incentives.
Yeah, I mean, I do get all of that.
Yeah. All right.
Quiz.
Well, hold on a second.
Quiz or Kazakhstan?
We'll do Kazakhstan first. But did you see the story about the streamer who actually has been charged in the riot in New York?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Yeah, I do too.
It was. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. And the fact of the matter is, in our interconnected world, you can generate a flash mob now.
Mm-hmm. Okay? Absolutely.
And so, are there consequences for that? I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there was property destruction. That's the thing. I mean, if it was just a bunch of people gathering and the police got stressed out, that's one thing. But there was property damage. There were people hurt too.
All right. So if I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, this guy didn't say that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, no. I wouldn't charge him with that stuff.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that he hadn't filled out the proper paperwork and didn't have the permit to begin with. Is that correct?
All he did is he said, I'm going to give away a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, 300 PlayStation 5s in the middle of fucking New York.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
How dumb.
Without a permit.
Yeah, that part is dumb. When when Shaq was playing in Boston, he used to do this thing where he would tweet out a picture of himself somewhere in Boston and say, "I'll be here for the next 30 minutes. Anybody wants an autograph, come by." It was awesome. Like if you could recognize the spot, get on the tee, get there in time. And Shaq was awesome. I managed to catch up with him twice.
That's cool.
But he only stayed for 30 minutes. So it's not like he built a giant crowd or anything like that. He was being very responsible about it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if he were to say, "Hey, it's Shaq, and I'm giving away 300 PlayStations," over the next hour, you would block traffic. It would be a disaster.
It'd be crazy.
And the question is, of course, what is the illegal component about that? Because it's the people exercising their right to assemble that is the issue. But I guess the right to assemble, we have to say that the right to assemble is probably not a finite right, right? You can't.
It's the right to assemble is sacrosanct to me. I think it's the what do you do while you assemble is the gray area.
But there's also a size limit. I happen to know for a fact that you can't have 50 people in a Waffle House in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. 48 is the fire marshal's code, and that's it.
I think a lot of being an American is filling out the paperwork and paying the stupid fees and whatever it is that you have to do in order to have the event. And even when you fill out the event, like, because I had to do this for the Libertarian Party, when you fill it out, you have to give like an estimate of how many people you think are going to be there. And you always want to go on the high side of that. Now, if you're doing something crazy like giving away PS5s, that's what you said, in the middle of New York, and there's 300. Well, it's New York. You're going to expect, you're going to expect, 8,000 people. But if you don't have the permit to begin with, then no one knows what you're doing. No one can be prepared for that. I worked with Homeland Security, and they meticulously plan things like Bonnaroo. I sat through so many of those meetings. They're the most boring things ever, but they do go over every single detail, because when you have that many people, you have to plan for that many people. So I do understand there being an issue with that. Once the people,
I do think it's a resource
I think
issue.
that each of those people, if they did anything, they should be responsible for what they did.
Yeah.
He should not be charged for what they did. He should be charged for his part in it, I think.
Yeah. Apparently he didn't even give away the PS3s. Like, he never got to the point where he could do that.
Yeah. So, what is the what's the reasonable
PS5,
consequence?
sorry.
What's the reasonable consequence for that?
For not doing, I think that honestly, it should be a fine of how much the police had to expend
$1 for every person who showed up.
No, I would say that what did the
restitution.
police? Restitution for police resources that had to be expended during the altercations, like because that's what the permit would do. And I'm not a big fan of permits. I would say, I would say I'm not a big fan of permits. I'm not a big fan of paying fees for the service, but it allows the police to say, oh, you're going to have something here that's probably going to have several thousand people. We need to have people on the street directing traffic, getting people kind of cordoned into a specific location. By skipping that step, then I think he should be on the hook for what the police had to expend on those.
And honestly, whatever the fine would be, whatever the fine is for gathering without a permit in New York City, because it is such a huge place, like one block being blocked off. How many people does that, one block being disrupted? How many people is that affecting,
I think
if you really think about that, how many people were inconvenienced that day?
It's an interesting point too, because it's on public property. If it were on private property, it wouldn't be an issue.
No.
Because we did that. We had more people. We did a rally for the Johnson campaign at the Marquis Marriott in Times Square, but we had everybody come inside, and we had 6,000 people inside. And that was fine. So it's the problem is when you bring everybody together in public and block traffic and all that stuff. Now, the downside of that is, what if you didn't what if I planned something and I thought it was just going to be, like, let's say I said I wanted to do a pro-Putin rally, and only 50 people showed up.
But do you need $1,000 for a sound system?
Right.
Do you have to work with the communists for that?
Well, the nice thing about working with the communists is then I can work with them again and again and again and again. So inside baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think unfortunately we all have to come to the agreement that in today's world, you can break the law by asking people to exercise their right to assemble.
Yeah. All right. You guys ready for Kazakhstan?
Kazakhstan.
So remember,
Wonderful Kazakhstan.
most people's imagination when it comes to Kazakhstan were peaked at the time. Whoops. Hold on a second. Let me get this. Well, we're peaked when Borat the movie came out. It's a fictional movie about a reporter from the country of Kazakhstan. It wasn't Kazakhstan where it was filmed. He doesn't use Kazakh language. It was complete parody to make Kazakhstanis look bigoted and ignorant.
Right. And to be fair, even before the movie, Borat was a character that Sacha Cohen did on television.
Yeah. It was just a movie extension of a character he did on his HBO TV show. So, all right. So here is Kazakhstan. College football fight song.
Yes.
A little
Is
bit.
Kazakhstan the biggest in terms of area of the former Russian republics?
Yes. Well, no.
Is Ukraine bigger? Is Belarus bigger?
No, Russia. Russia is the biggest of the former constituent republics of the
Outstanding.
Soviet
Great
Union.
point. Yep.
But yeah, it is the 10th largest country in the world. Let me get my stats here. So
that's some beautiful mountains.
yes, beautiful mountains. This is the former capital of Almaty, next to the mountains. There's one point. I'm sorry. Capital is actually Astana. We'll be seeing that here. This is Astana, which in
Beautiful
Kazakh,
city, giant river running through it.
maybe, but beautiful statue here. There's lots of statues in there. It's generally a planned capital city, much like Washington D.C. was. It was an existing city before but when Kazakhstan was a constituent republic of the Soviet Union, the capital was in Almaty, which we saw with the mountains there. This was a planned capital. They moved the functions there really to kind of tie everything into the north. Stan. All right. Develop more of the northern part of the country. The former capital is there on the southern border, Almaty. But anyway, capital is Astana, which has 1.4 million. The population is 19.5 million. It's the 64th largest by population, but by area, it is the 10th largest, 4 times as large as the state of Texas. If you laid a map of, 2-scale map of Kazakhstan across the United States, it would stretch from almost Cleveland, Ohio in the east, all the way to Phoenix and Nevada in the west. So that's how big Kazakhstan is. It's a massive country, but with the 64th largest population, it is not very populated.
Dense. It's not dense.
It's not dense.
But
not as dense as Borat. So.
But what's interesting about it is that it is, at least Astana is not, I mean, it's a modern city.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of things have been built in the last 25 years.
Yeah. And as a result, and, there's been a lot of this too, in that, again, the best thing that happens is when people get a chance to be capitalists. And when Kazakhstan left the Soviet Union, or left the whatever, they recently became the Federation, a lot of people saw economic opportunities there, invested a lot of money. And if you look at pictures from Astana, and I've seen a couple of documentaries from there, boy, it's just a good looking city.
It is a very beautiful city. I mean, um, the development that's gone there. Now, Astana is kind of like Istanbul. It's gone through several different name changes. Originally, it was called like Akmol, it's Akmolinsk. Then it was Selenikov or something like that. And then it became Akmoli again. Then it became Astana when the capital was moved there in 1997. Of course, Astana means capital city in Kazakh. In 2019, so from the time it became independent in 1991, December of 1991, when the entire Soviet Union collapsed and all these states declared their independence, the much like all the other stands, the guy who took over as president was the former Communist Party chairman of the SSR, the state within the Soviet Union or constituent republic. His name was Nursultan Nazarbayev, and he ruled the country for almost 30 years, or actually I think over 30 years. Stepped down in 2019. When he stepped down, they renamed Astana into Nur-Sultan. But then they just last year decided to rename it back to Astana. I hope they settle on a name for a while, because I think the busiest job in Kazakhstan is the guy that changes the names on these city markers. So, Dan, what are you showing?
This is a live webcam from Astana right now. I mean, really through the miracle of the internet, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're 11 hours ahead of me. So It is 10 a.m. there in Astana.
Yep. Pretty busy traffic. And, you look around, you see skyscrapers, modern buildings. And, the best sign about it is that I'm just counting here. I see 5 cranes building up. So Astana portal, it's interesting because it is so far inland that you wouldn't think you could have a big city there. They certainly benefited from having the patronage of the Soviet Union for a while.
Yeah.
But it'd be a place that would be nice to visit.
Yeah, they've, a lot of, in fact, I knew a guy who was a contractor for the United States that went to Kazakhstan, met his wife there. And so there's been a lot of American money that's gone in there, again, with its location within that region. Americans poured in there in the wake of 9/11, especially because of, global terrorism and the war in Afghanistan and things like that. So there's been a lot of foreign investment. It's a large oil producer. And I think from Soviet times, probably the place where people probably associate most with Kazakhstan is Star City. It's the place where the Soviets launched their rockets, and they still do. The Russian space agency continues to launch rockets from Star City in Kazakhstan. So
I asked in preparation for this ChatGPT to write a limerick about Kazakhstan.
It's Kazakhstan. There's no. Yes.
In a land far from the Vatican lies the vast expanse of Kazakhstan. With steppes so wide and grand, nomads roamed the golden sand, a world apart from any clan.
Very nice. That's not bad at all.
ChatGPT is good at poetry.
Yeah. So Kazakhstan's history stretches back thousands of years, part of the Silk Road. Habitation stretching back as far as the Paleolithic era.
Hey, Janice.
Hey, Janice. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. I know she's been talking with us on
Facebook.
But for some reason, those things, I am cheeky. Very nice. Yeah. All right. So part of the Mongol Empire. So it's changed hands. Kazakhs are generally Turkic people. There are mainly Kazakhs in the country still. During the Soviet times, there were movements, whether they were encouraged or forced. There's about 18% of the population are ethnic Russians, and 70% are ethnic Kazakhs, and there's a smattering of regional Uzbeks, Tajiks, things like that coming into the country
Uyghurs.
as well. Yeah, I mean, they share the border with China with the Uyghur population, so I'm sure that there's quite a few that have made it over the border to avoid the Chinese.
Yeah.
But let's see. Of course, we mentioned they were part of the Soviet Union for much of the 20th century. They were the second largest constituent republic of the USSR behind Russia. Currently, they're again December 16th of 1991. They broke away from the Soviet Union as I think it was during the coup of where they locked Gorbachev in his dacha in the south of Russia, and most of the states kind of moved away from that point and declared their independence. Nazarbayev was the president. So now Kazakhstan, yes, is a democracy. It has, they call it a presidential republic. There's a president and a prime minister. There's a parliament, two houses to the parliament. In the lower house, it's split. I love looking at these political systems, how they do this. So sometimes parliamentary systems are done on party list votes, which is run nationwide, and a party has to get to a certain percentage of votes to get into the house. Now it's split in Kazakhstan. 69, very nice, seats are done by the party list vote. So you have to get 5% of the vote to qualify as a party. There is one very strong party in the country, and then the rest, I think 29 seats are allocated as single member districts with first past and post voting. The Azamat party used to be called the OTAN party. Is the strongest party. It's the party of Nazarbayev and the current president. I've got his name here somewhere. It's Kazim. It's like a 3D. I'll find it later. But anyway, so there's a president and a prime minister. President is the head of state. Prime minister is the head of government. And outside of the House, there is a Senate. Actually, the House is called a Majlis, which is a very common term throughout the Middle East. Majlis is the House of Representatives or Consultative Assembly. And then the Senate is 50 members. 40 of them are appointed by regions, kind of like how we used to do our Senate. The regions would vote, the regional assemblies would vote on the senators, and then 10 are nominated by the government. And then Kazakhstan is a huge player in the Central Asian area. They've been courted by, continuing to be in the sphere of influence of Russia. They are very much courted by China. China.
Who they border.
Yeah, they border China. They share a massive border with China. And again, where they border the country, it also has created some problems in their relations because of the treatment, because Kazakhs are ethnic Turks and the Uyghurs are ethnic Turks. And so they don't really like the treatment of the Uyghurs, but they do also see China as a massive oil market for them. So that is Kazakhstan. One of the cool things, and I'm going to share this because this is really cool. One of the cool cultural things about Kazakhstan and most of the Central Asian republics is something called throat singing.
I hope you're playing the one from the guy who was on The Voice Australia.
No, this is like a house party. I didn't want to run afoul of the censors. Share screen.
I'm going to put this one in the chat. Let's see.
He's got a shred.
Pretty crazy.
Very good
amazing.
stuff. I mean, so the cool thing about this is that, you know, of course, it's throat singing, so they sing like really down here, and they're in the back of their throat. But then they do this thing where they send the air as they're singing through their teeth, and it has this whistling sound. So it's like this harmonic thing that they're doing with their voice, and it's supposed to sound like, you know, natural sounds like wind and things like that to convey during their songs. Their music is very primal. It's very masculine. It is, you know, it's you kind of feel pumped up when you listen to a bunch of throat singing. I really like it. It's really cool when you turn it on to about 1.25 playback speed, and they're just shredding, man. It's like watching, you know, Malmsteen drop it down.
I
Yeah.
can't seem to post in the chat, Dave. If you can take that and stick it in the comments. They had a Mongolian throat singer on The Voice Australia. This is a link for it in YouTube, and it's amazing. This guy is so good. Can't recommend it enough. Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
I don't know why you took away the ability for me to post to the pub. I'm just kidding. All right, quiz time.
It is quiz time. Let me stop sharing that. Oh, there we go. All right, the CNN News quiz for August 3rd. So it was a couple days ago. Our context clues: Trump,
Ugh.
Women's World Cup. I think that, I'm not sure who that is. Is that Argentina that got knocked out? And then a vaccine of some sort. All right. So that's our contact clues for the week. Ready?
Yeah, that's
Let's do
Germany
this.
going home.
Oh, yeah, maybe Germany going home. That was a big upset. Let's see. Amazon is growing its footprint in the health sector. Which service did e-commerce giant launch nationwide this week? Clinic, nutrition, workouts, or pharmacy?
I'm going to guess clinic. I don't know.
Pharmacy.
I'm
Pharmacy
going to
could
guess
be good,
pharmacy.
too.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is probably e-pharmacy of some sort.
All right.
Oh, no, it was clinic.
Oh.
And
You guys each owe me $1.
Wow.
damn.
You can come to Tennessee and collect it.
Oh, so telehealth. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it's just telehealth is so good now for so many things. Although this is, I will again give away this idea that I think is worth billions of dollars. One of the things that they always impressed when I was working at MGH is the importance of taking the vitals of every patient every time you're in the room, every time you get a patient in the room. And you know what? It's not even like you're just sitting around. You got somebody's there with a patient, and you got 10 minutes to kill. Hey, let me take your vitals too, because you just never know. The problem with telehealth, telemedicine is that you're not taking vitals when that happens. So what my company is proposing to do is we ship you a box. You know, you have a telehealth appointment. We ship you this box, and it's got a little device that you plug into a USB port, and it does your pulse, it does your oxygen level, and then it has a little strap that goes around and it'll do your blood pressure. And then supposedly we can get an easy to do the strip thermometer that then you set back. They're not super accurate, but they're not terrible.
Yeah.
And then you would get the vitals on everybody. I think this is a really good business idea. Of course, insurance pays for it, so it doesn't cost people anything. And
Except for higher insurance premiums.
well, they'll never know. Honestly, I would make an argument that insurance companies probably like, you know what, we probably would avoid a lot more serious situations if we actually were taking
Preventative
vitals.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's some things that are worth saying too, and this is like American healthcare is failing a lot of its population because we don't talk about the fact that food is medicine, and
Mhm.
you can abuse food just like you can abuse medicine. And nobody wants to hear from their doctor that you're fat or you should lose weight or anything like that. But they should be saying that to us because it really is a health issue. So
But I will counter that with that because I've been to plenty of doctors who think of that as the only thing that's wrong with you. Like they'll
Yes.
take one look at you and say, "Oh, you're fat. That's why you're."
I want to know who the doctor who's not saying you're also ugly.
Oh, this true. Yeah. But I think some doctors just take that as okay. Well, they're fat. That's the cause of all their problems, and it
Right.
often it isn't. And I know that there are some people who are overweight that hit the gym and do the things that are like cardiovascular wise are healthy, but their body just doesn't reflect it yet, or just
Right.
it doesn't process that way. So I think again, a doctor needs to evaluate the whole patient, not just what they see on the outside. So,
Yeah.
But doctor telling me I'm fat and need to lose weight, that's absolutely true. So, question number 2: Former President Donald Trump was indicted this week for his alleged efforts to remain in the White House following his 2020 election loss. How many times has Trump been indicted? We talked about this.
Yep. It's the Melania indictment.
The Melania indictment. Third indictment this week. Political analysts say this one may be the most consequential. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Actually, when they're saying political analysts say, they mean us.
I am an analyst. Yes.
That's exactly what we said. We said this is the most consequential.
Yep. Question number 3: Which typhoon recently soaked Beijing in the city's heaviest rainfall in 140 years? Look at that road.
I didn't even hear anything about it. Oh my God! I sure hope it's called Dora.
I think it is called Dora
Oh,
Really?
Dora the Explorer.
because it caught my attention.
All right.
Hola, can you say wet? No.
Is it not?
Ducks.
Which
Typhoon
one
ducks.
was Dora? Was there a Hurricane Dora or something? There was
I think-
something
Maybe
Dora. I
something
swear there
something
was.
I think Dora the Explorer, and then Dory the fish.
It is Hurricane Dora. Excuse me, not a typhoon.
Typhoon Doksuri is the name.
Right. Doksuri means American devil.
Entire months of rainfall worth of rainfall in Beijing in only 48 hours.
That is something that's happening all over the place now. I mean, we just saw it happen in the eastern U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I would advise all of our listeners to think about what they would do in the event of serious heavy rainfall.
I mean, luckily, West Virginia is very famous for its floods.
Yeah.
Lots of rivers running through the state. I'm lucky enough that I'm really high up on a hill. I'm right by the Potomac, but I'm high enough that it would have to. I mean, it would have to be biblical flood for us to. There's nowhere to run.
We're in a similar vein in that we're up a big hill, but when the water runs fast down here, it can occasionally cut channels through the hill,
Yeah.
which have been a little alarming. I had to redo our driveway once.
Oh, wow. Question number 4. Which soccer team was shockingly knocked out of the Women's World Cup this week? We talked about that a moment ago. Sweden, Germany,
United States.
Spain, or Japan. This was done on Thursday, so
Right.
that one wasn't quite yet.
Yep. It was Germany.
Japan's still there. Sweden's still there. Spain is still there. So it is Germany.
Yep. In fact, Spain is currently the number 2 odds favorite to win it.
That's interesting. I mean,
It's England, Spain, Japan.
Sweden and Japan play each other in the next round. So one of those teams is going to get knocked out. And they're both really good.
Yeah. Well, so the other interesting thing about it is we talk about England. England just got the fucking luckiest break in the world. There's nobody good in their half.
Yeah.
They should have a cakewalk through to the final.
Yeah. Yep. Germany, 2-time champion team, was dramatically knocked out of the World Cup Thursday after a 1-1 draw with South Korea. And the cool thing was the team that knocked them out essentially was Morocco with a 1-0 win. So good on the Atlas Lionesses on their advancing into the knockout stage. All right, question number 5. Which type of lunar phenomenon lit up the night sky this week?
Does it happen in Kentucky?
I don't know.
Sturgeon
supermoon, blood moon, or lunar eclipse.
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining.
Was it blue moon?
I think it's a blue moon.
It's Sturgeon supermoon.
All right. AJ sounds very confident.
Yeah. I heard something about supermoon this week too. So
I did too, but I also heard it was a blue moon.
Correct.
Wow. Look at that.
Sturgeon supermoon created a magnificent sight across the world this week.
I'm a white girl with a nose ring. You trust me on moon shit, dude.
All right. Fair. Fair.
All right. Question number 6. Which automaker recalled more than 870,000 trucks because a parking brake could engage unexpectedly? Ram, Chevrolet, Ford, GMC. I don't know this one.
Notice they don't even bother to list the Japanese trucks because nobody would believe it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, if I were going to guess who's got the worst reliability, it's probably Dodge.
All right. Anybody in the audience have an idea?
And I'll tell you the other reason why I say that is because, Chevy and GM are essentially the same. The Chevy Colorado is the GM something or other, but they're the same. So it's really either Ford, GM, Chevy, or Ram. Ford's been pretty good recently, so my guess is Ram.
Oh, it's Ford.
God damn it.
I guess living up to the name, fucked over rebuilt Dodge.
Yep.
We are
found on road dead.
We did talk about this before, but the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is their electric vehicle, if it has a full charge, you can plug it into your house, and it'll run your house for a couple of days. It's pretty amazing.
For F-150s, 299 instances of the parking brake activating unintentionally, including at least 19 while the vehicle was being driven.
That's crazy
Nightmare.
Shit. Interesting.
It's amazing there are no fatalities.
Well, I keep thinking about that part of Fight Club.
Well, it's interesting because you do actually use.
You can drive with the parking brake engaged, though.
Well, and there's certain times when you want to do certain sort of turns where you will engage the parking brake while spinning the wheel around and then release it afterwards. So I guess it wouldn't necessarily cause a problem.
Yeah, interesting. Not surprised it's Ford. One of the longest hot weather streaks in U.S. history finally ended this week, which city saw temperatures of 110 degrees for 31 consecutive days. I think it's revenge because every time we go through daylight savings, they always kind of rub it in our face. But it's got to be Phoenix.
Suck it, Phoenix.
Suck it, Phoenix.
Do you know what people from Phoenix are called?
Phoenicians.
Yes, which is cool.
I like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn it. Heidi knew that it was Ford. Sorry, Heidi. We'll wait for you next time.
Yeah. Hottest month for any unit city on record, which, yeah, that tracks. Question number 8. Health officials anticipate a new COVID-19 vaccine will be released in the U.S. by which month?
I don't know.
September, November, December, or February? I
would
think
guess
we just,
September.
yeah, I mean, I would say probably September. I think just you getting past the whole COVID thing, like I just don't care anymore,
I
when it
don't
comes to vaccines.
care, but I do want to get it.
Yeah, I mean, like because Kara just went through her own bout of COVID, and there is another resurgence of it going on in the United States. Of course, it's not as deadly as it once was, but it's still an issue. You're still losing taste. And I helped Kara out by getting her Tom Kha soup. I ordered her
Nice.
Tom Kha soup from an Albuquerque eatery via DoorDash, delivered to her door, and I got her the extra hot,
Nice.
the bowel liquefier,
Nice.
Tom Kha soup, and it restored her taste and smell. So great success.
That's just science.
That's just science, man. Tom Kha, if you are sick, I will tell you, Tom Kha soup is better than chicken noodle soup. Get Tom Kha soup if you have a Thai eatery anywhere near you. TOMKHA. It is the best soup.
I will say that you're talking about the fact, right? Essentially,
September.
Asian remedy versus Jewish remedy. I will say between the two of us, we comprise 95% of the doctors on the planet. So
yeah, but yeah, so COVID-19 vaccines will be ready by the end of September. All right.
that's good. Although it's weird because I got one in June.
They say 6 months between vaccines.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're good for a while. You just don't have the latest greatest yet.
Yeah.
And,
Well, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to get it combined with a flu shot. June was too early for the flu shot, so I don't know.
I still got to get my shingles shot because I'm now.
Dude, right? Did you get the first one?
No, not yet.
It's a 2-part vaccine like COVID.
Yeah.
Except I think it's more than 3 weeks in between them. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely get your shingle shot, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My wife had shingles very early, like in
Wow.
her 20s, and I mean it wasn't like the really bad ones you see on like older people have, but it was still shingles and still caused joint pain, still caused rash. I mean, it was not fun.
Shingles is miserable. I did that
Shingles,
when I worked at the jail.
Yeah.
Right.
We actually got the answer to this one already from Heidi. All the ladies are squealing in anticipation on this one. The Roach World leader announced he and his spouse have agreed to separate after 18 years of marriage. It is Canadian Prime Minister Justin, don't call me Fidel Castro's son, Trudeau.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see Justin Trudeau with the beard on, which I think he's currently wearing a beard, and you see a picture of his dad, and you see a picture of Fidel Castro, and there's like pictures of Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Fidel Castro together.
Yeah.
There's some things going on there.
Oh, well, I mean, what's interesting about it though is that I think he is, by any definition, a handsome guy.
Oh yeah.
And there is a famous thing, he is referred to as PM Steal Your Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sharing it up right now. There's a famous photo collage of
Oh yeah.
if you'll let me share my screen.
second. Let me. Yeah.
So this one's pretty classic. That look on Ivanka at the end there.
She is eye fucking the shit out of him.
Yeah, and then, I mean, who can fluster Kate Middleton, right? That's pretty crazy. Notice that his wife is there with them. Okay, Hermione Granger going nuts for Justin Trudeau, and then of course this guy can't stop eye. So back to the quiz.
Oh my lord! All right. All right, final question. Which musician is being praised for giving life-changing bonuses to her truck drivers? This one is an easy one.
Miss Swift.
It is Taylor Swift.
When you're
Yay.
15, when somebody says that they love you, you believe them. Actually, I don't know if that's how the song goes. It's something like that. Is it 15? Is it 17?
I don't know. I don't really listen to her music. I mean, I
Dude.
liked like her first album. Like I heard a couple songs of it. And I was like, that's cute and poppy. She's kind of adorable. And
Well,
then,
there's the country album first.
yeah,
But
yeah,
man, Blank Space is a fucking great song.
yeah. I'm kind of set in my musical ways, I think.
All right. Dude, the next time we do a karaoke, you and I are going to sing a Taylor Swift song.
Yay.
Okay.
Does she have any duets
I don't know.
But Tim McGraw.
with Tim McGraw?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of like she does the backup of the haunting. What is it? Highway.
She does one with Chris Stapleton.
There you
Oh
go.
wow.
Oh,
we
and
got
she sings one with Zac Efron. Oh, this was on the Ellen show.
7 out of 10. Not
Boy,
great.
that was a bad day for us.
Yeah, it's been bad. We've been rolling around 9 a week. I will say that I was traveling all weekend. I flew down to Macon, small town. Tried a few things there. Did not rob. I didn't carjack an old lady or anything like that. I went to a Buc-ee's.
You didn't rob a liquor store.
Yeah, I did. I went to a Buc-ee's. I had my Buc-ee's virginity taken from me. And Buc-ee's is everything that they claim it is. That is perversely large. It's America in a convenience store. It is. It's everything in there. More stuff than you know that you need. But like when you're walking in there, it's like, I want this, and it's like going to a Costco in convenience store form, and that you can't get out of there for under $100. But yeah, flew into Macon, met my wife there, and then on Saturday we drove back up from Georgia. Oh, that's a long drive, man. That is a long drive. I'm glad to be home. So, all right, guys, we good for the week?
We are good. I shared one more thing.
Carrying me cheering.
No, I put it in the chat. I don't know why
Our
my
show?
chat doesn't show up.
I didn't see it.
I put it. I thought I put it in the YouTube chat. I see
Oh.
Janice's stuff there. Why is my stuff not showing up?
I don't know. We've had some issues with comments not showing up.
All right.
Like our Facebook's not showing up.
I'll
There we go.
Yeah, I'll put it there, and you can send it into the big chat. But that is a nice little Taylor Swift and Zac Efron duet. But man, Taylor Swift is just an unbelievably talented musician.
Yeah, I mean, and people get mad about Taylor Swift and her.
I have no idea why.
I mean, I get part of the reason why with Taylor Swift in that her Eras tour. It's not her fault. I'm not going to say it's her fault, but really, really way overpriced. And it's again, the tickets are going the resale market because she's going through Ticketmaster. There are bots that buy up all these tickets before people can really get to them. So they end up having to buy them on the resale market for probably 3-4 times the face value, maybe more. But
I
don't know. but she's hooked into Ticketmaster because if you want to play any of the large venues in the United States, you got to go through Ticketmaster. They got the
Right.
exclusivity.
But she's going to do what she did last time, which is there's an HBO special of essentially of the concert. So, really well shot, stuff like that. If you've got a nice ability to watch HBO, in about 4 months, you'll be able to watch essentially her concert
Yeah.
in person with great access.
And to me, I don't know that I would want to go to a Taylor Swift concert.
Oh, I have no desire to go to a Taylor Swift concert.
I've seen videos from them, and it's like first you're probably not going to be able anywhere near her. Like
Yeah.
I know that she's got this.
You're watching the screen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're watching the big screen, so you're essentially watching her on television. She's there. She's in your presence. She's like
Not only that,
fields away.
Dave. Go ahead.
The entire audience is screaming the entire time. It's like the Beatles. Like how do you hear what she's singing because you're screaming your head off? Like, how are you enjoying this concert?
And Dave, if you and I show up at the concert,
oh
people
no,
are like,
yeah, Chris Hansen's
predators.
Gonna show up. Yeah,
Exactly.
Chris Hansen's gonna be like, take a seat over here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but like from the business side of it, and I think we've talked about the fact that I was, I tried to make a go of it as a musician back in the day, and she's so good at the business side of things.
Oh yeah.
The
just
fact
like
that
Garth Brooks was. Garth Brooks was phenomenal because he was that's what he majored in college was business administration.
And man, yeah, she just does a great job. So
yeah,
I'm glad that she made $3.5 billion on that tour.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is what
make
the
that
tour
money.
was. Yeah,
make that money. Now, poor Justin Trudeau. I guess Taylor Swift is not a fan because she has not scheduled any tours, any of their tour in Canada. So no Canada. But Justin Trudeau tweeted to her. I don't know if that led to the separation or not.
That is what led to the separation.
Yeah, he wants her to come to Canada. From what I hear, the problem with Canada is the venues there are not big enough. Like she's been packing like massive football stadiums,
Yeah.
and then probably the only place there that I think would be large enough, based off of the U.S. and international places that she's played, would be maybe the Rogers Center, the Sky Dome in Toronto, and I'm not sure why she hasn't booked that.
There's the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. That's got to be pretty freaking big since they had the Olympics there.
Well, no, most Olympic stadiums are converted after because like I went to the TED in Atlanta, which was Centennial, the Olympic Stadium there. It was twice as big when baseball moved in. They shaved off a good length of the stadium to make it baseball specific. So, I mean, they probably didn't do as much with Montreal since it was one of those 70s cookie cutter looking stadiums.
The Montreal Olympic Stadium is the largest by seating capacity in all of Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many seats?
I'm looking. 56,000. So it's not enormous. Oh,
it's not enormous.
No, wait. So 56,000.
For baseball,
56,000 now. It was 73,000 for the Olympics.
Yeah.
But it's 56,000 now. 61,000 for soccer.
Yeah, they could probably get closer to that top number that they had the Olympics with concert seating. Yeah.
Record attendance is 78,000 for Pink Floyd in 1977.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, they're not a lot of big venues, but I bet you though that what it is that there's an enormous tax on performers to play in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Trudeau administration is really kind of screwed with artists, both Canadian and worldwide artists.
It's going to be
based on Canadian content.
Right. Well, right. So that's another interesting thing about it is that there is a disproportionate amount of Canadians in American entertainment.
Oh yeah.
But it's because they have a state broadcasting system that,
It's easy.
another one of my favorite Hollywood stories is Mira Sorvino, who, was famously sexually harassed by Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend at the time was Jason Priestley, who essentially ended his career by slugging Harvey Weinstein in a public place and saying, if you ever do that shit again, I'll kill you. However, it didn't actually end his career. And for the kids out there, Jason Priestley was on the show called 90210.
The old
He
one.
was-
The old one. There's been a second one, but yeah.
The old one. He was hugely
original.
popular at that point in time. But then he went back and he's been on Canadian television ever since. Now,
Yeah.
he's making like $20,000 an episode, but he's working as an
Yeah,
actor.
he's comfortable. He's comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And
no,
he's a great one of the great celebrity hockey players.
Yep, he is. Cuba Gooding Jr. is a good hockey player as well.
Michael J. Fox was.
He was. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to everyone watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all that fun stuff. Sorry about the Facebook stuff. I'm not really sure what's going on with it. Having issues.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, Zuckerberg's being a dick. He's probably thrown me into Facebook jail for some reason. I don't know. But we'll talk to everyone next week. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing next week, but we'll be doing a
We got to
show.
pick a country.
Oh, yeah. Dan, your turn.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it
All
is.
right. Let's do. How about? Should we do Sealand?
Sealand. Yeah, we could. I mean, there's not a ton of information on Sealand. There's
All right.
some.
All right. How about?
You like
again,
those micronations, huh?
well, I do. I was going to say Pitcairn Island.
Pick your.
All right. Let's do Guam.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not technically a nation. It's
It's American territory.
Yeah, we can do it.
All right.
I'd like to go to Guam.
Guam.
We know somebody who works in Guam.
Who?
A pretty prominent libertarian left to become the Attorney General of Guam. I don't remember what her name is now, but very interesting.
Okay. Well, cool.
A good libertarian.
A good one. Good.
Yeah.
Not one that goes on Matt Walsh's, or not Matt Walsh's show. Or Joe Walsh. His show.
Joe Walsh's show. Yeah.
Embarrass herself in front of. Was dysfunctionally embarrassing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ridiculous. All right.
Yeah.
Say goodnight,
Good
Gracie.
everybody. Good night, Gracie. And we will see everyone next week.